Today, we're diving into the final, tragic decade of one of the 20th century's most brilliant minds, Walter Benjamin. This is the story of a man who wrote his most important work while his entire world, and, the world at large, was literally collapsing all around him. Let's just start with Benjamin's own incredible metaphor for his life in exile. He said it was like living inside a crocodile's jaws, held open only by a sheer, constant act of will. And let me tell you, this wasn't just some fancy, poetic line. For him, this was real. This was his daily life, a desperate, constant struggle against being crushed. So how did he end up in those jaws? Well, to get it, we've got to go back to 1932. This was the year his personal life and the political world didn't just have a bad time, they completely imploded at the exact same moment. It was the perfect storm of despair. It's wild, right? His private life became this tragic mirror of what was happening in public. Just as his marriage was ending, so was German democracy. Just as he was losing all his money and becoming totally broke, his country was being swallowed by Nazism. Everything, both inside and out, was just unraveling.
And this catastrophe just unfolded with terrifying speed. I mean, just look at this timeline. In the span of just a few months, all the institutions that supported freedom, both intellectual and personal, were just completely dismantled. It all leads up to this symbolic horror of the book burnings. For a writer like Benjamin, this wasn't just politics. This was a threat to his very existence.
So this whole political disaster, it wasn't some abstract thing for Benjamin. No way. It hit him directly, right in his professional life, and systematically silenced one of Germany's most important public thinkers.
For about 5 years, radio was a huge part of Benjamin's life. He made 80 broadcasts. We're talking plays, literary criticism. He even did programs for kids. It was a huge source of income for him, and more importantly, his main way of sharing his ideas with, a really wide audience.
And then, nothing. Poof. Not a single recording of his voice survives today. The voice that was once broadcast across the whole country was just completely erased from the airwaves. He became a ghost in the German cultural machine.
And make no mistake, this was deliberate. This was a campaign. His media contacts got purged. The prestigious newspapers he used to write for suddenly went silent on him. He had to publish under a fake name, and then even that got banned. Goebbels was crystal clear. Thinkers like Benjamin were to be completely airbrushed from history.
But here's what made Benjamin's tragedy so unique. He wasn't just any academic or journalist. He was chasing this very specific and soon-to-be-extinct idea of what an intellectual could be. It made him an outsider, even among other outsiders.
His good friend, the philosopher Hannah Arendt, she absolutely nailed it. Benjamin's biggest dream wasn't to be a professor or some state-approved thinker. He wanted to be something much, much rarer, an homme de lettres. So what even is that? Well, picture this, a totally independent scholar, someone who stands apart from the state, apart from society, free to follow his own curiosities, funded by his own means. Not a paycheck. Basically, he wanted to think and write without having to answer to any master. And this right here is the absolute core of his personal tragedy. The rise of Nazism didn't just make his life hard, it made his entire reason for being an intellectual completely impossible. The very idea of a fiercely independent Jewish thinker became a crime punishable by death, and it happened at the exact moment he had the most to say.
And yet, from this place of absolute crisis, stateless, silenced, broke, Benjamin develops one of the most powerful philosophical images ever conceived. It's just incredible.
The inspiration for it came from this small watercolor by Paul Klee. Benjamin bought it back in 1920, and he absolutely treasured it. He carried it with him everywhere he went in exile. To him, it wasn't just a piece of art, it was the key to understanding history itself. In one of his last great essays, he reimagined this painting. He said, look, where we see history as this nice, neat chain of events, one thing after another, the angel of history sees something totally different. He just sees one single, unending catastrophe. So here's how he breaks down this massive idea. The angel is looking at the past, at all the suffering, and he desperately wants to stop, to help, to make things whole again. But he can't. There's this violent storm blowing from paradise that we have the nerve to call progress, and it's blowing him backwards, helplessly, into the future. All he can do is watch as the pile of wreckage in front of him grows higher and higher. For Benjamin, progress wasn't the solution. Progress was the storm.
So what do you do? What can anyone possibly do when you're facing that catastrophic storm, with no home, no country, and no future? Well, for a thinker like Benjamin, there was really only one thing left.
His close friend Theodor Adorno captured it perfectly. When every single physical home is taken from you, you have to build a new one out of words and ideas. Writing wasn't just a job for Benjamin anymore, it became his only sanctuary.
And that's the powerful paradox of his life, isn't it? His greatest works, the ones we're still reading and arguing about today, they weren't born in some comfortable library. They were born from the absolute heart of his suffering. He was writing from inside the crocodile's jaws, creating a legacy out of the rubble of his own life.
And this is exactly why he still matters so much. As the critic Terry Eagleton points out, Benjamin taught us that what really fuels us to create a better future isn't some vague dream of what could be. It's the urgent, painful memory of past injustice. We fight for a different world because we refuse to let the wreckage of history have the final word.
And that leaves us with a pretty provocative thought to sit with. If Benjamin is right, if history really is this single catastrophe and the storm of progress is always blowing, then what's our responsibility to that pile of debris at our feet? What does it even mean to try and make whole what has been smashed in a world that just never stops moving?